Hi everyone, Andy De Bruyne is my name. I'm one of the lecturers in UCD Professional Academy, and I'm one of the subject matter experts on leadership and management. This will be nice and informal. So any questions you have, I know there's a Q&A at the end. Any questions you have as we go, don't be afraid, stick your hand up and I'll answer any as we go as well. Austin is here to support us, and any of the non-course specific, in other words, enrollments or payments or anything like that, he is the expert and not me. And he is more than adept at answering any of the questions that you have. So I'm going to scoot through a few slides initially. Bear with me. So we're looking at leadership and management. In summary, and it's a very brief run through some of the areas that we will cover. We look at the roles of leaders and managers, the differences between the two, what their specific roles are as a leader, as a manager, different styles and traits that individuals may have as leaders or managers. Various different types. You'll have heard of, in more recent times, adaptive leadership or agile leadership, the idea leadership, situation leadership, perhaps transformational leadership, which in the 90s, you would have seen Steve Jobs been called a transformational leadership, or leader, rather. Some of the differences between leaders and managers and types of leaders and styles of leaders and, different quadrants that people may fit in, and how some may be more effective in certain situations than others. Emotional intelligence is a huge area in leadership and management. The idea of empathy being one of the elements of emotional intelligence. And in earlier leadership theory, it was very much more management theory, where it was that leader with knowledge and confidence and perhaps arrogance and ego strongly crept into it, and how they were the predominant traits in leading or in fact managing people. And now when we look at leaders, they're people-centric. They're leading people. Organizations are a construct about people. The bricks, the mortar, the construct of the organization in terms of infrastructure is secondary to actually the people within it, the culture of the people, how we actually lead the people, because it's the people that deliver the end state, the outcomes, the outputs. So it's important that we focus on people. If we focus on people first, then the outputs and the follow-on, the outcomes, the bottom line will follow suit. So culture is a huge element of leadership. Driving the vision, instilling good values, ensuring there's a positive culture. Can be hard to get there and to maintain, but very, very easy to let slip. And once it goes into a negative culture, a toxic culture, it's very, very difficult to get it back. So it's a key element in leadership, and the ideas of change and change management. One of the most difficult things for leaders to do is to influence positive change, eliminating those obstacles, communication, developing that trust in people. And we'll be looking at that, the idea of influencing people and leveraging that influence, leveraging those network connections with people. How do we enable it? It was touched on in the earlier part of the webinar. You have a dedicated lecture for all of your lectures. And excuse the typo there, just checking if you're awake. Advanced, but very much user-friendly in terms of the interactive nature of how we engage with people. You saw there we have a learning management system, which all of the lectures and the recordings of the videos of the lectures are put up and available to you, and some notes, availability for some additional reading, frequently asked questions, your student handbook, all of the information you need to participate actively and engage with the course, and indeed the discussion forums to engage with each other and indeed the lecture during the course, asking questions, posting perhaps readings that you have found outside of the core learning that you found beneficial to yourself, or thoughts that you had that you may find that other students will find useful during the course. And what we have found, particularly the online delivery, is that the interaction with each other is absolutely critical. What we're trying to do is create toolkits or toolboxes for every individual and to network them so that your learning is networked to somebody else's learning, so you can stay connected and dip into each other's knowledge and the toolbox that they have built up from the entirety of the course. In my experience, and I've been with the Professional Academy almost since its inception, is that students actually form a very cohesive and strong network, despite the fact it may be live online, and stay in touch with each other. Some of the earliest classes I have are still involved, and some of them I've had to archive because depending on the night that we're on, you still get the messages cropping up in WhatsApp groups and whatever. And it's great to see, because it enables further learning beyond the course, further networking beyond the course, creating those connections that enable people, if they're looking to upskill or looking for different jobs or to move on or looking for someone as an additional person, an objective person, a third person on an interview panel in their company. That network collaboration and reciprocation of knowledge, of sharing, of friendship, that social interaction that's so important in leadership and management is very, very beneficial. So we enable this also in terms of the breakout rooms, the student interaction I've spoken about, but also in terms of how we develop teams within teams. The idea that Stanley McChrystal talked about in his book, Team of Teams, organizations being a team of various different teams, different levels of those team interactions. Case study is a very good way of doing it, where we set a task, break people out into groups, that they form teams. They identify each other's skills, strong points, weak points, as Stephen Covey talks about sharpening the saw. All of us have different skill sets. Some are better than others. We can develop the ones that are really good, but we can also develop those ones that are weaker to enable them to be some of our strengths. Reflective learning is very much a significant aspect of how we teach, how we learn, how we interact, how we reflect, draw insights, and we bring them into the assessments at the end. One of the first assessment is based on reflective learning, where we have assessment logs or active learning logs, ultimately reflective logs. You are reflecting on the material that you have engaged with for that particular lecture, between the breakout rooms, with me, the lecturer, you personally reading the material, thinking about the material, reflecting on how that applies to you in your organization, in your life as well. Because remember, that interface between life and work, you can't separate it. It's not like the screen where you have yellow on one side or mustard on one side and white on the other, and there's no interface between the two. They're interconnected. We can't, like some people say, oh, I leave work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I never think about it again until Monday. I haven't really come across anybody in my life or career that has been able to do that. It still rests in the brain. We're cognitive beings. So there is that interface. If you have a bad night at home or a bad day at home, you bring an aspect of yourself into your workplace. So that balance is something that we look at in greater depth, particularly nowadays when we look at the ideas of hybrid learning, hybrid work or remote work. There's a significant interface there. How do we do it? 12 lectures, normally 3 hours duration, and we break it up with, breakout rooms. There are several breaks. I personally let the students decide what they want for the breaks or when they want the breaks. That's just my way of doing it, because it's very much an interaction between all of us as a group, the lecturer and the students. I'm learning from the students, getting their ideas, getting their viewpoints, their particular orientation in terms of their sector, their work, their most recent experiences. And we're feeding all of this back into each other so that we can all learn as a collective. And then there are 2 assessments at the end, the action learning log, which is 12 logs. I'll go to it in a minute. 12 individual reflections on each of the 12 lectures, about 250 words each. And then the second one is an academic essay. So the modules in the course, organizations, where did they come from? What was the evolution of organizations from the simple organizations where you had goods in, processing goods out, to the more complex organization where we added in functions like HR and finance and marketing and public relations. Getting the right people. Organizations are about people. Sorry, I should have said in the first one, we deal a lot with culture, values, vision, mission, values, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Getting the right people, having the right fit in the organization, change. And we look deeply at different models of change, such as Lewin, the simple, the unfreezing, the neutral phase, and the refreezing. And we'll go into depth looking at John Cotter's 8 steps in change. We'll also look at some of the psychological effects of change. And we look at the William Bridges model or the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the psychological effects on individuals, how it affects us, our emotions, and we deal with those negative emotions and positive emotions and how we can help the people we work with, we interact with in our teams to reduce that negative phase, to adopt change and reinforce the positives of that change. Management and leadership as an element in themselves. We look at coaching and mentoring as managers. The idea of having a coaching philosophy within our organization, within our teams, and the differences between coaching and mentoring. Probably one or the two most interchanged terms and yet misunderstood terms. What's a mentor and what's a coach? I regularly hear people say, oh, I think I'm doing a lot of mentoring with some new staff members that I have. Where in fact, more oftentimes they mean they're actually coaching them rather than mentoring them. And we'll look in detail at that. And we actually do some very, very interesting work in terms of case study and examples where we interact with students or get them to interact with each other in a coaching scenario, working through specific examples. Go look at team working in the management of teams. The idea of good leaders, bad leaders, great leaders. What are the attributes of leaders? The differences in terms of leading a team and managing a team, how you build that trust. Trust in the foundational level, as Pat Lencioni would suggest, that enables conflict. And what's conflict? Conflict is open and honest communication to try and get the best courses of action, the best solutions to the problem, inviting in different opinions. Because if you don't have that trust in a team, people will stay silent. What do you think? Oh, I think that's a great idea. You don't want that. You don't want an echo chamber or a silo. You want people to say, well, I think it'd be better if we did it this way or that way. So you're gathering that diversity of opinion in, putting it together with inclusion, and then the leader is making the best possible decision, which has the best chance of success. It's not to say we'll succeed, but also when we look back at change, if there's that collaboration in terms of the decision-making, the chances are there will be best effort by all inclusively to try and get that change or that decision or that solution to actually work. We're looking at developing your own people, getting the best from them. How can we develop performance management, performance systems, performance appraisals and reviews, leading to performance development? Because oftentimes we talk about performance reviews and performance appraisal. Dirty phrase. Oh my good God. Yeah, I have to prepare 20 of them now by the end of January, and I have to write all these up. And you're nearly looking at examples I'd seen in the past where someone had written down 30 different examples, works well under supervision, very dedicated worker. Grand number 1, 6, 29, 28, and 36, and you fill it in. No, waste of time. So we'll look at quantitative and qualitative in that. But really, why are we doing this? We're actually doing it to develop people, to see where we can improve them, where there are perhaps deficiencies that we as an organization need to improve for them. Identify areas. Maybe End isn't great at presentations. Well, okay, we can get him some coaching or some training in communications, or perhaps a short course in communications and delivery of presentations, so we can improve that, so he can develop, and the team as a consequence can develop also. We're going to be looking at networking, influencing different aspects of the skills, like the political skills, the small p. We're not talking about Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, or any of that. We're talking about political skills, how we influence, how we introduce ourselves, how we leave that positive impression, how we reciprocate. Because networking can often be seen as a dirty word. Oh, I'm just looking for some, as some of my relations one in particular, the only time he ever rings is when I know he's looking for something, and then 9 months' time. No. A network is something that I am willing to commit. At some point, I'm there to be able to reciprocate. And yes, it is leveraging that relationship. In the same way, our friends, we might know someone, I'll ring a friend, I need a plumber. That's leveraging a network, a friendship, a relationship connection. Going to look deeper into developing others. And then one of the favorites of many students, difficult conversations. But actually this permeates throughout all of the rest of them. And indeed, all of the lectures have that synergy between each other. Difficult conversations. How do we deal with them? How do we enable that conversation to be less difficult? How do we mitigate it? How do we get rid of having them at all, except in a very rare occasion? And there's some very obvious ways of doing it that we actually realize, but we don't invoke. So we will work through those, and we'll give a couple of examples, and we'll take examples from people that had difficult conversations, and we'll work through and see how could we have made them easier for both sides? Because we seem to think that difficult conversations are the ones we have to deliver, but actually they're difficult for the other person as well, because we're dealing with people. Again, the idea of emotional intelligence that we look at a lot with Daniel Goleman, probably the forefather, the kind of the leading academic and practitioner in terms of emotional intelligence. And we look at it very much in that way, or in that vein. We'll also look at business continuity planning. What is it? It's risk management, risk mitigation. We'll go through a worked example in teams and that. Great exercise, fun exercise. Actually, people get a lot out of this. Also in tandem with that, we look at authentic leadership. And again, it goes back to our moral compass, our values. And we look at particularly good video there, and we'll go through it in some depth in the idea of authentic leadership. And authentic leadership fits into types of leadership, but it's actually more in terms of the ethical leadership that we're looking at. And finally, we look at you, career planning. How can we get you to develop you, to analyze, to self-critique, to draw your own insights? And we'll do some work on SWOT analysis, on career path planning, in order to enable you to work on. So it's a threshold. The assessments at the end of this are merely a threshold to allow you just that assessment in that point in time. And what we're actually doing is we're preparing you for beyond the assessments, beyond the course, that you can add and add and add to your learning and build and develop and reflect on environmental situations, things that happen at work, that you can draw insights from them and develop yourself further as a result of the course. The course, many would describe as a zip folder, that you unpack it as you go, but you really start to unpack it and spread the clothes and hang them up in various wardrobes around your house long after the course, that you're seeing where the best fit is and drawing the insights from the course as they apply in real situations. Even if you're listening to someone else having that situation, you're reflecting on it and drawing your own insights. So learning outcomes for the course: apply models that describe organizations, various different approaches to leadership and management, plan for people management issues as they relate to performance, in an organization. And we learn how to anticipate consequences of a wide range of management decisions and the approaches that are taken by management. You yourself will create a personal leadership development plan by use of reflection on your own leadership path to date. And it doesn't matter if you're not in a leadership role. It's a leadership path. You may well be a leader, but not in a role entitled leader or manager. We're going to show you how to develop the ability, or assist you in developing the ability, that you can demonstrate how to express a personal management strategy and a rationale. Don't worry about the words or the phrases in that. It will come organically to you. As I said, the assessment's in two parts. 40% is the action learning log, 12 reflective logs submitted in one document after the completion of the course, and it's circa 250 words per log, 3,000 words plus or minus 10% in total. And then the second one is an academic essay. and 3,000 words plus or minus 10%. The impact and effectiveness of leadership and management in my organization. So is the course right for me? So I've just 3 very basic questions there. Are you in a management or leadership role? Have you any training in either of the 2 areas or not? And are you seeking a leadership or management role? Is it your goal to achieve that and you want to add this onto your CV? And more importantly than adding it onto your CV, adding it into your cognitive CV, that you understand the capabilities, the approaches to decision-making, to leadership, to management that you need. So it gives you the confidence to actually go for that role and take that role and embrace it. Can I commit the time? As was suggested, there are several different learning options available for you. I would ask the question, can you afford not to commit the time? And what we found with the online delivery is the live online is that people at the end of it are kind of, oh, I wish it'd go on for another 4 weeks, because they have found, particularly after the second or third lecture, that it's a weekly engagement. It's like a meeting of minds, a social engagement, a social interaction. And the people schedule this and they see this as a breakaway in their week, that they're interacting with a group of like-minded individuals that they enjoy the company with, and it's fulfilling. It's challenging, yes, but it's fulfilling. So you can ask yourself, can you commit the time, or which type of time do you wish to commit with the various options that are there? So some of the students, I promise you, I didn't write these. You can see them there. Greg Ryan, solicitor, and Andrew Doyle, safety manager. Some of the comments that they have had, and there are numerous other ones. You'll see them up online. Some well-known personalities that should be familiar with. Who can I? Oh, Darren Maloney, RTE, senior commentator, news presenter, sports presenter, was a recent one that has given the okay to kind of to share. And indeed several others that you will see online as well. Wide range, huge range of different institutions and organizations, all of the multinationals, leading companies in Ireland, other academic institutions actually well known in Ireland, and indeed across the world. Huge amount of international and global students across the States, Australia, Middle East. I've even had some from Africa as well as continental Europe. Okay. Austin, over to you.
Okay, so we're going to open it up to kind of questions if you have any, and again between both Enda and his wonderful coverage of the course, or myself. I'm an education consultant for UCD Professional Academy, so if there's any kind of large questions you have or anything like that, we are doing, as you might see on the screen there's a special offer of a kind of a discount that they're running, so you can feel free to capture that if you want and use it. But other than that, I think we'll open it up to any questions you guys have. Feel free to either raise a hand, or to, if you don't have a mic, you can drop it in the text box. I'll do my best to get back to each person. So,
Georgina, we use Moodle, and obviously our own front end is put on it. And discount code, of course I can, and I'll give you an example of Moodle now in a second. There you go. QR code is there. Is that the handiest one? Or I can bring it back to previous one. PAOD 0923.
and I'll just drop that in the group as well for you guys there, just in the group chat, just so you have it.
And Stephen has a question there for you, Austin. Do we sign up through the brochure?
So you can either sign up through the website or by directly contacting ourselves, either over the phone. So either is fine, but the website is probably your best bet. It'll take you directly there, and it will also show you the different kind of enrollment types, whether it's the on-demand, whether it's the part-time online, or the on-campus one as well. So you'll see your different options. and you'll see your different dates as well. And also, I'm conscious of answering Diana's question there in the group. Similar to that, if you're looking for a later stage to enroll, there is one coming up in late November. I know, so that might actually suit you, but you will see it on the website when you go to live online and look further down at kind of the bookings that are available. You'll see later ones that we're running in the year.
Maria has a question there. Is this accredited or what QQI? It's a professional diploma and it's accredited by UCD. It's not on the QQI, and we have particular reasons, and we have looked at that over the last couple of years, whether or which. But it was at the time, and as Antonio says, it is covered. We have an academic council that have oversight over all of the courses, but it is a UCD accredited course. But we haven't gone down the QQI route for particular reasons, despite the fact it would easily sit well within the QQI framework. But it was looked at for particular reasons. Organizations in some ways would prefer not to be, because there are some additional requirements that are there. Doesn't pertain to the learning on the course or what you learn from the course. As anyone that has done it or undertakes it will find, the level of detail and the theoretical knowledge you gain from the course is quite significant and comparable to some very significant higher levels on the QQI. I hope that answers that for you, Maria. Quiva, interaction with their other classmates. I'll put it this way. Every course I have had live online to date have active WhatsApp groups that are still active and still meet every couple of months together in person. So the interaction is very, very significant. From the first night breakout sessions, they're very, very interactive, and we encourage it because that's where the real kind of learning and engagement comes from. You know, I know X amount, Austin knows something else, Terence will know more. And it's the combination of all that knowledge and the more interaction between the 25 or 30 students that are together, it's a multiplication of all that shared knowledge, with whether you're in the private sector, the public sector, security sector, IT, clinical, medical, whatever sector, engineering, whatever sector you're in, retail, hospitality. And it's a combination of the sharing of all that knowledge that's really the true fruit of the benefits. So it's very, very significant for certainly the in-person and the live online.
Yeah, absolutely. And also further to what Enda was saying, we do find a lot with those kind of WhatsApp groups that emerge, or you also have the kind of forum on the LMS as well. That it is a great opportunity for students to also share if there's job openings coming up in companies, because again, you do see a mix of experiences doing the course. So you'll have people looking to start their leadership management role, versus you'll have people who are already well senior in leadership and management, and they've kind of learned the hard way without any kind of formal training, and they're doing the course to kind of give that framework to what they've kind of filled in some of for themselves.
I'd say with me, I'd say on average, at least 2 jobs have came from every course group. In fact, actually, I got a text this morning from a former student 3 years ago. He wants to meet for a coffee. He's going for a job, a step up promotion again, wants to meet me for a coffee to see, bounce a few ideas off me. And that's a regular feature with different people that kind of, they see the skills, particular skill sets that people have in particular roles, or if they're in HR or whatever, they're leveraging that relationship, that network connection for themselves, because you're putting yourself out there to share with each other as part of the group. And the groups are really, really tight. Specific requirements, Austin, you can answer that one, for professionals who earn their education from non-EU state.
No, we don't. So there is no kind of discrimination against people, say, from outside the EU applying for these courses. It's absolutely open. We do often kind of have just kind of language requirements around it. So in terms of kind of your ELTS test, as long as you're proficient in English, both writing and reading, that is the only requirement that we would have.
Spoken is quite useful too, Austin.
That's true. That's true. Anything else? Any more questions? And like I said, guys, if something does come to you after this, you can always reach out to us either by downloading the brochure or on the website. There's plenty of the education consultants like myself would be happy to answer any questions you have. Right. Well, if that's it, if that's everything, then yeah, and I'd love to thank you for your time as well. It was a fantastic presentation of the course. And again, thanks guys for joining us today. Any other follow-up or anything like that, you can go on the website, or by downloading the brochure, you can reach out to us as well. Anyone that's already enrolled in one of the courses, best luck and enjoy, make the most out of it. And yeah, be happy to talk to you all again.
Okay, take it easy. Nice to meet you
Cheers.
all.
Bye, boy.
Thank you.